This is a revision video for Unit 1, Cold War, Key Topic 3, the invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. Okay, so the invasion of Afghanistan ends the period of détente. It's a key turning point ushering in the Second Cold War. So let's have a look at what actually happened in Afghanistan. So the Kabul Revolution, Kabul being the capital of Afghanistan, occurred in April 1978, and this is when the communists of the PDPA, the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, they decide to take over. It's a communist takeover, and they begin a programme of socialist reforms. So they change marriage customs, introduce land reforms. They are challenging the traditional elite, who are the Muslim religious leaders. And those Muslim leaders don't like this. They form the Mujahideen, and it results in civil war. So it's basically Muslim groups, the Mujahideen, fighting the communists. Now, Taraki is forced to accept Amin as his prime minister, and then Amin supporters murder Taraki, and this happens in October 1979, so there's a lot of political infighting and instability. Now, fundamentally, the USSR don't trust Amin. They think he might be an American spy, and they're beginning to feel that they need to get involved. Their biggest problem is that they fear other Muslims within the Soviet Union might rise up and try and leave the USSR, or there might be issues with other countries wanting to become Islamic states. Now, there's a man called Karmal who has persuaded them that he has enough popular support to form a new government. And in the back of their minds, they don't think America is going to do anything because they didn't get involved in the Prague Spring. And also, Brezhnev would quite like to extend his influence in the oil-rich Middle East. So, on the 25th of December 1979, the Soviets invade. And they say they are going there to protect the PDPA from the Mujahideen, and that they're just complying with a treaty of friendship, cooperation and good neighbourliness that Taraki had signed in 1978. On the 27th of December, Amin is shot and Karmal is, installed as leader. Now, Karmal is totally reliant on the Soviets, but at this point the Americans step in to some extent, and President Carter announces the Carter Doctrine, which states that the USA would not allow the USSR to gain control of territory in the oil-rich Middle East. So he's very concerned about the USSR spreading their influence. So in response, the Americans form an alliance with China, and they agree to support the Mujahideen. So the Americans are funding the Muslims who are fighting against the communists in Afghanistan. They then impose economic sanctions on the Soviets, and they also end diplomatic relations. And as a result of all of this, SALT II isn't ratified. Now, the invasion for the Soviets is basically a total disaster. It lasts 10 years, about 1.5 million people die, including 15,000 Russian soldiers, and it's a huge economic drain on the Soviet economy. The Americans increase their defence spending by 5%, and as I've already said, SALT II isn't ratified. And there is a boycott of the Olympic Games in Moscow in 1980 by the Americans, and this seems to confirm that not even sport is safe from the Cold War. It's signifying those divisions, and is a way the Americans are trying to assert their influence over countries. So if you go along to Moscow, you're kind of agreeing with what happened in Afghanistan. So Afghanistan closes the door on that period of détente and starts what is known as the period of the Second Cold War.